In 1932, America was broke. Car companies were collapsing, and Henry Ford made a gamble so reckless, even his own engineers swore it would fail. A cheap V8. For the masses, it overheated, it cracked, it leaked. By all logic, it should have been a disaster. But what if I told you that the engine everyone thought was doomed became the one that powered Outlaw's hot rods and the birth of NASCAR? The Ford Flathead V8 wasn't just an engine, it was a revolution. An engine that made horsepower democratic, an engine that rewrote American car culture. Henry Ford's greatest gamble, and maybe his greatest mistake. This is the story of the Flathead V8. The year was 1932. America was broke. Bread lines stretched around city blocks, factories shut down, and car sales collapsed. Every automaker was fighting for survival. But Henry Ford, the man who had once put the world on wheels with the Model T, was restless. His empire was faltering. The Model T had run its course. The Model A was respectable, but competitors like Chevrolet and Plymouth were eating away at Ford's dominance. Henry knew he needed something radical, something to grab headlines, something that would make people forget their empty wallets and dream again. The idea? A V8. At the time, V8 engines were exotic, reserved for luxury brands like Cadillac, LaSalle, and Lincoln. They were powerful, yes, but expensive, complicated, and completely out of reach for the average buyer. Ford's gamble was to take this prestige engine layout and simplify it, mass-produce it, make it cheap, make it for the people. But here's the catch. Ford's engineers told him it couldn't be done. Casting a V8 block in one piece was considered insane. The metallurgy, the machining, the cooling, it was a nightmare. Henry didn't care. He pushed his engineers, his foundries, his draftsmen to the breaking point. He wanted this engine in showrooms, now. And after countless failed prototypes, endless cracked blocks, and factory men burning their hands on molten iron, the Flathead V8 was born. A simple monoblock 221 cubic inch V8, 65 horsepower, cheap, rugged, and available in a brand new Ford for as little as $460. The industry laughed. Competitors said it would fail, that the engine would overheat, crack, blow gaskets, leak oil. But when customers saw that V8 badge, they didn't care. For the first time in history, ordinary Americans could buy a car with the same cylinder count as the rich. And overnight, the Flathead V8 became a sensation. But no one, not even Henry Ford himself, could have predicted the monster this engine would unleash. The Flathead V8 didn't just put more cylinders on the road. It put horsepower in the hands of people who never had it before. Young men, farmers, bootleggers, outlaws. And suddenly, America discovered something new. Speed. You see, before the Flathead, speed was a luxury. The average family car was lucky to crack 50 miles per hour. But a cheap Ford V8, with a little tuning, a few backyard modifications, and maybe a hacksaw to cut weight, it could fly. And that's exactly what happened. All across America, kids started tearing down Fords, stripping off fenders, cutting down bodies, and racing them. Hot rods were born, and the Flathead V8 was their beating heart. But it wasn't just kids looking for thrills. During Prohibition, moonshiners needed cars that could outrun the law. And suddenly, Ford's Flathead became the outlaw's choice. Cheap, fast, easy to modify. Bootleggers bolted on multiple carburetors, milled the heads for more compression, fitted homemade manifolds, anything to squeeze more power from the little V8. And on back roads across the South, a new kind of motorsport was born, stock car racing, which would eventually evolve into NASCAR. Think about that. Without the Flathead V8, there might be no NASCAR, no Daytona, no Talladega, no Earnhardt, just moonshine, outlaws, and cops. But the Flathead wasn't just an American phenomenon. Across the Atlantic, Europe was still recovering from war, and Ford of France, Ford of Germany, Ford of Britain They all adopted the Flathead. French Flatheads would power Citroëns and Simcas. British specials raced them at Brooklands. Even in war, the Flathead found a role, powering tanks, trucks, and amphibious vehicles. The Flathead had gone global, but beneath the glory, beneath the legend, there was a darker side. For all its popularity, the Flathead was far from perfect. Its simple design, the very thing that made it cheap to build, also made it flawed. The valves sat in the block, not the head. A flathead design. Simple, yes, but restrictive. The engine couldn't breathe well. Cooling was another disaster. Hot spots around the exhaust ports caused overheating. Cracked blocks were common. Mechanics cursed the Flathead as much as they praised it. And by the late 1940s, Ford's miracle engine was falling behind. Chevrolet had their Stovebolt 6. Chrysler had the firepower Hemi. Engines were getting bigger, faster, stronger. But Ford clung to the Flathead. For over 20 years, they sold it. Long after it was obsolete. Long after the world had moved on. Why? Some say it was stubbornness. Henry Ford hated change. Others say it was economics. The tooling was paid off. The factories were built. Why spend money on something new? But some whisper something else. That Ford knew the Flathead was flawed. That rivals like GM and Chrysler wanted it gone. That backroom deals, industrial espionage, and even government pressure played a role in keeping Ford one step behind. Conspiracy? Maybe. But here's the truth. By the time Ford replaced the Flathead with the Y block in 1954, the damage was done. Chevrolet's small block V8 was around the corner, and it would dominate in a way the Flathead never could. And yet, the Flathead never died, because by then, it had already transcended being just an engine. It was the engine of hot rodding, the engine that moonshiners swore by, the engine kids in California drag raced on dry lakes, the engine that fueled nostalgia, even as its flaws were forgotten. Even today, 90 years later, rodders still hunt for Flatheads. French blocks are imported, rebuilt, polished, and displayed at car shows. Edelbrock still sells performance parts. Builders still bolt on triple carburetors and polished heads, chasing a sound that no modern V8 can quite replicate. That deep, throaty, uneven burble. It's the soundtrack of history. Because in the end, the Flathead was never about perfection. It was about possibility. It was the spark that lit the fire, the engine that started it all. And maybe, just maybe, the most important V8 ever built. The Flathead wasn't perfect. Far from it. But history doesn't always honor perfection. It honors impact. The Flathead was the first engine that gave speed to ordinary people. The first engine of hot rodding. The first outlaw's engine. It was possibility. It was rebellion. It was the spark that lit the fire. The Ford Flathead V8. The engine that started it all. This was the people's engine. The outlaw's engine. The engine that gave America speed. Engines like this are only the beginning. If you want more forgotten stories from the golden age of horsepower, make sure to like this video and subscribe. The next legend is coming.